Hi there, I'm Ryan Girdley from the Lincoln International Business School here at the University of Lincoln, and welcome to our fantastic new Bloomberg Suite. So a little bit about me. I'm a chartered accountant from the ICAW, and I've been working here at Lincoln for the last couple of years as an accountancy lecturer in our Accountancy, Finance and Economics department. So today we're going to be talking about different forms of business. Now we've got four main ones we're going to talk about today. There are plenty of others, but we are going to talk about sole trades, partnerships, limited companies and PLCs. So let's start at the beginning, and we're going to go with the smallest entity, and that is the sole trade business. Now, if you're a sole trader, a bit like Smithy from Gavin and Stacey, there might be someone like a painter and decorator, a hairstylist, someone that's maybe looking at quite a small business, and it might be the first type of business that you would go for. A sole trader has an unlimited liability. So what we mean by unlimited liability is that any debts accrued in this business are liable not only on the business, but the person that is owning the business, so the sole trader themselves. There is no differentiation between the sole trade owner and the sole trade business itself. So why might you want to be a sole trader? Well, one of the primary reasons is that you want to be in control at all times of your business. So as a sole trade, you make all of the decisions. That also means, though, you get all of the responsibilities as well. Now, effectively, the business and owner are one and the same, and they will also be taxed as such. That means any profits you make in your year as a sole trader will be taxed on you personally. This can lead to quite large tax bills if you're an extremely successful business. Another couple of popular reasons for being a sole trader is not only is all your information kept very private, unlike some of the other possible business types, but you also have a minimum amount of administrative burden. This means significantly reduced costs, and this is obviously very useful for a new fledgling business that's just begun. So overall, a sole trader is likely to be quite a small business, often your painter and decorator or your local greengrocer, and they set up this business to keep the admin costs down and keep a very simplistic form of business structure to begin with, until they maybe progress into one of the later forms we're going to look at shortly. So the next business form we're going to look at is a partnership. Now, this is very similar to a sole trade in many respects, but of course has one big difference: the fact that there are partners and more than one person controlling this business. So a partnership is a business which is owned by two or more people, and they control the share of ownership between themselves. Sharing the burden of owning a business can often have some real benefits. You're thinking about making joint decisions, you can use each other's ability of different knowledge bases, and it often means that capital that was initially put into the business can be shared equally, meaning you don't have to put quite so much into your business to begin with. Now, partnerships often are quite small in nature, and often things like your local butcher or your farmer. Often you find these are family-run businesses. Now, this isn't necessarily always the case, but often holds true. Now, like a sole trade, a partnership also has unlimited liability. However, this unlimited liability is obviously shared between the partners. Therefore, any debts that are accrued in the business, which are defaulted on, will be personally liable to both the partners. The profits are also shared between the two partners. Now, this could be equally 50-50 or by design or a bespoke partnership agreement where profits are split in another manner. From a taxation point of view, partnerships does work very similar to a sole trade. The partners will be deemed to be the main owner of the business and will be taxed as such on all of their share of the profit. Now, one of the main problems with a partnership often is that it can lead to disagreements. So too many cooks spoil the broth. Now, most businesses that are partnerships often are fledgling again, but it's sometimes when you have a friend or family member that you want to go into business with. The administrative burden is quite low, similar to a sole trade, and overall it's a good decision if you have someone that you want to jointly run a business with. Now, you may know some businesses which were historically opened up as partnerships, such as Apple, HP, and Ben & Jerry's. Now, these are no longer partnerships, but you can see that a partnership can definitely grow into something more. So the next business form we're going to talk about is an LTD private limited company. Now, the owners of an LTD company are shareholders. However, in this case, the shares are not on a stock exchange. They are usually privately owned. Now, this means that the legal entity is separate to the business owner. You have a limited liability. This means that any debts which have accrued in the company and which have been defaulted cannot be traced back to the shareholder themselves. They will not have to outlay any of their capital to pay off these debts. Now, one of the main reasons you would use an LTD company is the tax efficiency of the business form. It is often used as a tax efficient way to get profits out of a business without having the burden of paying tax on all of your profits, as we did in a sole trade or partnership. So some of the main disadvantages of an LTD company is the fact that the information that you provide in your accounts can be found in a public space on the company's house website. There is also a significantly greater administrative burden. So every year you have to do an annual set of accounts which gets submitted to Companies House, and you also will have to do a company tax return. This takes time and money. Often you have to get an accountant like me to be able to do that work for you. So overall, an LTD doesn't expose your personal assets, and it also means you may save some tax in the long run. It is often used as businesses begin to grow and make larger profits. But you've got to remember the disadvantages. It's going to cost you a lot more in admin, and also your information will be shared in some format in a public domain. Some famous LTD companies could include Wayne Enterprises, owned by Bruce Wayne, aka Batman, but in the real world maybe we're thinking about things like Dyson Ltd. Now, the private limited company Dyson is still owned in the majority by the owner, James Dyson. Now, the final business form I'm going to talk about today is what we call a PLC. What we mean by that is it is a public limited company. This means that they trade their shares on a stock exchange. So here at the University of Lincoln, in our brand new Bloomberg suite, you'll be actually able to see a public limited company's share price live. This will mean that you'll be able to do data analytics on the market as a whole, as well as looking at individual commodity and share prices. Now, by floating your company on the stock exchange and therefore trading your shares, this means that you have the ability to generate large capital sums to maximise your business wealth. Now, the disadvantages of a PLC, it can be really expensive to set up, and it also means large amounts of your information will be in a public domain. Now, how does a PLC work? Well, obviously, like I've stated, you trade your shares on a stock exchange. Now, this means that investors will come in and buy your shares. In return, they usually expect either an increase in value of share price or a return through dividends year on year. So a PLC often gets quite a bad PR reputation. They're often seen to be kind of large conglomerates trying to take over the world. Let's think Skynet from Terminator. However, that isn't necessarily true, and some of your famous brands are under the umbrellas of some of these large PLCs. So looking at the slide I'm presenting now, let's play Spot the Odd One Out. Did anyone expect Primark to be under the same umbrella company as these other three companies? They actually are. They are all under the Associated British Food plc. So Associated British Foods are a PLC that trade their stocks on the stock market. You can go out right now and buy stocks in their umbrella company, which means effectively you own a very small part of Primark. So overall, we've looked at four main types of business form. There are more, but these are the four main types that we talk about. We've talked about sole trade, partnerships, limited companies, and PLCs. Now, like everything, they all have pros and cons. And often, as an accountant, I have to advise clients which one would be more suitable for them. So as modern business students, it's really important that you understand the mechanics of different business forms. It's actually something that we teach here at the University of Lincoln in our first year. I hope this small video has given you an insight into not only what we teach, but really helps you with your future studies. So I really hope to see you here at the University of Lincoln in this Bloomberg suite sometime soon. Thank you very much for listening.